welcome to our third and final retirement seminar video. We hope you've enjoyed the video so far. We still have lots of interesting material for you, and in fact I found this to be one of the most interesting of the three videos. Sure. We're delighted with the response we've had so far, so just to say to anyone who has requested a consultation, we will make sure to be in touch with you by the end of the week.
What we're about to look at tonight is what kind of issues are going to face you in retirement. And I understand that for many of you this may seem a long way down the road, but one of the things we found from looking at these videos ourselves is how your plans before retirement, at retirement and into retirement are all interlinked. So the idea is to just have a little think, a little process of what you see so that you can start making your own mind up about what direction that you want to go in. And the other thing I'd like to say before I hand you over to the speakers that has come over to me particularly is that when you get to retirement, it's important to start putting yourself first. Many of you, and indeed many of the people that we've spoken to over the years, they have dedicated their lives to the institution that they've worked for or to their children, and indeed many people might have elderly parents that they're looking after. But I think that as you get to retirement, you've earned the right to prioritise yourself and to think about the things that you want and to put them front and centre of your plan. Indeed, if there are people that you want to look after, you might find a little bit like the put your oxygen mask on first thing that you get on the airplane, that if you don't look after yourself, you may not be in a position to look after the people that you want to look after. So with that in mind, let's have a look and see what our experts have to say about how you should plan yourself when you're in retirement and see what you think.
Other areas that we can examine with a client is, would they like to replace their death in service benefit?
Okay, so this is like the 1.5 times salary that's paid in the event of your death while you're at work.
While you're at work. So that's gone when you retire.
Well, that stops.
Sure. So just because you're retired doesn't mean you don't want life cover. So often people would like to have some life cover there in the background. Sure. Another thing that can become a consideration for some people is inheritance tax planning.
For some people.
For some people, not for everybody, but it's definitely something we'll examine with you. And then a big part of our job for a lot of the clients when they retire is getting some advice on how to manage their gratuity, so that tax-free pot of money that they've got. So we will sit with the client and we'll look at the 3 different areas in retirement. So what are you going to need in the short term?
Okay.
So what that means is, what money are you going to need to have access to?
Sure.
Moving on then is medium to long term. So when we say medium, Owen, we mean 5 years.
5 years plus?
Plus, yeah, exactly. So if there's money that you don't necessarily want to have sitting in your current account, you would maybe like to make a little bit of interest on it, that's when, we can help and advise and go to the marketplace and research and come back with some various options. But what our clients love when they do invest the money is that 5 years into retirement, they have another little pot of money maturing.
Sure.
So, they're creating wealth while they are in retirement. Once again, it's just making sure that you have a pot of money in the short, the medium and the long term.
My favourite part of my job is hearing from the clients who are post-retirement, what they're getting up to now that they have more time to enjoy life and that they're not working. If they have any queries or concerns or just anything at all that they'd like answered, to have someone as a point of contact for them. On average, anywhere between 5 to 10 calls a day would come in from clients. Yeah, there'd be a broad range of queries, so there's nothing I suppose that we wouldn't have heard before. I suppose some of the top queries I'd have would be for anyone wanting to make withdrawals from any of their ARFs or AMARFs, for example, and how they'd go about doing that.
Okay.
People would want to see, maybe how their funds are, what the current value is, how it stands. And a lot of the time as well, people may ring in about pension related queries, if they think they're paying a little bit too much tax maybe on their state pension, how it works and how to rectify it if it was needed. They'd be the top queries that I'd receive from clients. We break it down on the phone, we go step by step what needs to be done, and a lot of the times the client might go off and do step 1 and then they'll ring me back to follow up and go through step 2 and step 3. So it's a constant process that if there's something that they're a little bit concerned about or they're afraid of going a foot wrong, we go step by step, that they can keep coming back and touching base with me. And it's lovely to see clients at the other end of their career now, in retirement, hopefully enjoying themselves. And it's nice to nurture that ongoing relationship with them. But for me, like the highlight of my day is when a client picks up the phone and calls in.
Okay, so let's providing you're still doing all the right things, your weight is good, your diet is excellent, you're doing your walking, you're doing your weights, so you're looking fabulous. There's another area you need not to forget about it, and that's your brain, because your brain needs to be trained. So degenerative condition like Alzheimer and dementia, start appearing at this stage, if you're lucky, because sometimes they happen a bit earlier. But this is an age where your brain becomes a concern. Now, there are some genetic factors for these diseases, so there is a part that we cannot really do anything about it. But there's good evidence to say that if you do exercise your memory and you do exercise your brain, you will perform better when you're older. Okay?
Sure.
How do you exercise your brain? Again, whatever you like. You can do memory games. You can do games with your friends. A lot of people got into quizzes recently. That doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun. It's really hard to know, because obviously your memory is not going to stay the same. So a little bit of forgetfulness is within normal. For most people, you do know there's something wrong. And if you have the feeling there's something wrong, that's when you talk to your doctor, because there are very specific assessments that your doctor can do and the professionals can do to see where you fit in a certain skill and help you. But if you're worried about your partner, for example, don't stay at home and be worried. Do get assessed. But you do need to keep your brain active, because for some people who have worked all their lives, that was done automatically. You don't realize how quickly your brain works when you're trying to work, when you do things. And that also really slows down very quickly when you retire. So if you can keep engaged even with your previous work and you enjoy that, because maybe you go back and you do a bit of teaching or a bit of training, there are all things that you can do that will be very useful. So, but if that's not an option, because your job doesn't allow to do that, then there's other alternative ways you really should look at to maintain your brain active.
So a person that dies without making a will is known to have died intestate.
Sure.
And their property and their assets are administered in accordance with the rules of intestacy. So essentially what that means is there is an order of entitlement. And firstly, if there's a spouse or a civil partner and no children, the spouse or civil partner take 100% of the estate. Secondly, if there's a spouse, civil partner and children, the spouse or civil partner will take 2/3 and the child or children will take 1/3 between them equally. If there's no children or no spouse, there is a further line of entitlement.
Sure.
And that really depends on the nature of the blood relationship with the deceased. A child, unlike a spouse, has no automatic entitlement to a share from their parents' estate. However, if a child is left out or receives very little, they can make an application to court, asking the court to make proper provision for them, and to have an entitlement to do so under the Succession Act. The test that the court adopt is: has the testator or the person that made the will or the parent, have they failed in their moral obligation to make proper provision for the child in accordance with their means? These applications in court are known as Section 117 applications, and they can be incredibly expensive. And again, the costs generally come out of the estate. So what I would advise parents to do is to ensure that some provision is made for a child, and to sit down and discuss that with your sister.
Yeah, we've been looking at the different scams there over the last 6 months, I suppose.
Right.
And honest to God, you would think there's a new scam coming out every day. And I suppose the whole COVID thing, there's more people going online there now. There's more people spending online. They're not going into shops, and that'll probably continue. And there's different people they're buying on websites that they don't even know. They're giving out their credit card details.
Yes, yeah.
There's fraudsters pretending to be from the social welfare. The Garda Síochána, the department, various departments. We say to everybody, nobody will ever look for your bank details.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, if somebody looks for bank details, it's a scam. That's the simple reality of it. We always say to people, look, go with tried and tested, websites. Use safe modes like PayPal as a way of means of paying something. Even get a ready-to-go credit card. If you're somebody that's going to be going and buying a lot of stuff online, there is ready-to-go credit cards you can get through the post office or other means that are far safer and secure. So you can only spend what's in the credit card. But at least then, if the credit card details are stolen, you know, you're not going to lose a substantial amount of money.
Yes,
But don't
yeah.
just take it that an email contact from a complete stranger is a genuine thing.
Yes.
It's not.
So the first piece of advice I would give to anybody, if they haven't already done so, is to make a will.
Okay.
Okay, and the second thing that they should really consider is some form of an inheritance tax plan. The capital acquisitions tax rates in Ireland are high, it's 33%. Children can inherit 335,000 tax-free.
Okay.
You can leave assets to your brothers or sisters, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. They can inherit 32,500 tax-free. And anybody else can earn 16,000 tax-free. The other thing that people may not be aware of is that you can give anybody a gift up to €3,000 tax-free.
Okay.
So I can give you a gift, you can give me a gift, $3,000 a year tax-free. So if people have significant cash reserves and potentially when they leave stuff in their will, their family will end up with tax liabilities, what they should be trying to do is transfer that cash while they're still alive.
Okay.
So using up to $3,000 a year threshold, I would recommend people do that. An inheritance tax plan is important because you do need to establish, do the people who are going to inherit have a tax liability, and ask the question, is there any way that we can reduce this? And there are ways, but only if you have a plan. And maybe if you have a plan, you will still end up in a situation where those who inherit your assets have a liability. In that case, well, there's always a Section 60 policy that you can take out,
Okay, yeah.
which effectively is like an insurance premium, where you establish what the liability is, and you can take out a policy to cover that liability in the event that the liability arises in the future. That's the Section 60
Okay.
policy.
I would say relax. Go for walks, go out for the day, go away for a weekend.
Sure.
Suss out your social circle. You know, if you know people who are retired, make contact with them for coffee. I was lucky in that there was 6 or 7 people of my own age who had already retired,
Sure.
and they already had this circle set up that they were waiting on me to join.
That was
That was
nice,
lovely.
yeah.
Also, decide what you want to do socially now. So let's say you have something part-time set up, but you do need a social outlet as well. What way are you going to manage your social life? Are you happy being in the house on your own or being your own person, or do you really want, you know, social life? Do you want to be? Do you want to make new friends? If so, where will you go to make the new friends? So what I did was I took a couple of months off, and in September I decided, right, now I'm going to start saying, what do I want to do with my day? So in the months over the summer, after I came back from my holidays, I started looking at things. I was very interested in mindfulness. So I started looking around, was there a mindfulness group I could join? And I really wanted to join one where I might make new friends. And I did join one. It's called Sanctuary up in Stanhope Street. And if anyone knows those, Sister Stanislaus Kennedy,
Sure.
she
yeah.
runs that. And I had come across that before, and I said, okay, I'll find out about that. And I found a group that meet on a Monday morning. We have a lovely mindfulness session, and we all go for coffee afterwards. Now, I didn't know anybody in that group when I joined, and now I have a whole new circle of friends.
Sure.
We're absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, I think pure equity investments can be quite volatile, and certainly we saw that this year. Okay. So for many investors, particularly those approaching retirement or in retirement, one of the ways that we would say is maybe just to reduce the allocation to equity investment. And you can do that via a multi-asset fund. So a multi-asset fund is, as the title suggests, a fund which has different types of assets in it. So the Goodbody Dividend Income Multi-Asset Fund has assets such as dividend-paying companies. Mm-hmm. It's got some corporate bonds, which are issued by companies. It's got government bonds, and it's got some cash. And what we try to do is manage the allocation to those assets, which reduces the volatility, which makes the journey for investors much smoother. Our job is to try and manage the returns for investors. And one of the unique features of this fund is that we also buy some protection, which helps investors if markets get particularly volatile.
Okay,
and
great.
that protection worked particularly well in the first quarter of this year when equity markets were under a bit of pressure due to the COVID situation. That's the objective of the funds, is that, you know, inflation is certainly in the economy, and we're certainly seeing it, even if not so in the headline figures. But as investors over the medium to long term, we have to protect against inflation. So what we're trying to do is to achieve a return through the cycle, which we would consider 4 to 6 years, whereby we can beat inflation and give investors a reasonable return.
Some people naturally structure their day, others won't. So I suppose indicators. So it's very easy to get up in the morning, turn on the laptop, say, look at emails, and before you know it, you're sitting in your pajamas at 12 o'clock. I advise when they start seeing those indicators, because that will follow then a lower mood, because we have 2 types of memory. One is all in our brain, but the majority of our memory is in our bodies.
Okay, right.
So if your body senses pajamas, it senses sleep, rest, downtime. It's not starting up. So if you're sensing that and people are feeling low, a good idea is, before you do anything, is to come back to your routines. Get up in the morning, have your shower, if you're a lady, put on your makeup, whatever you did. Dress yourself, be presentable, be ready to go, and then start your day. Whatever that day may be.
Yes,
I'm not saying what you do with your day is your own, but what happens to the body, it all begins to realise, oh, I'm awake, I'm on, and we feel better. And the memory of your 20, 30, 40 years kicks in. That memory is back on, and it's on. One of the most, for your cognitive ability, one of the most complex things we can do as human beings is do what we're doing right now, and that's have a face-to-face conversation.
So conversing,
Yeah, but face-to-face as opposed to FaceTiming or on the phone. So I go down to the shops and speaking to the clerk at the desk, saying hello to the postman.
Something as small as that.
They're called micro interactions,
and
everyone counts, and it also enhances the sense of connection and connectedness to the community. Because another thing that can happen in retirement is complacency can set in, and we just want to be with the people we want to be with and the places we're used to and all the things we're used to. So it's to get out of your comfort zone and to branch out and to push yourself.
It's also fair to say that when they get their pension pot, their money that they've saved up in their AVC, that you will obviously, or we will obviously, have maximised the amount they can take tax-free out of that as a first step.
Always the first step.
But the majority of our clients would have excess money, which they would then put into either an approved retirement fund or an approved minimum retirement fund. There's an element of investment in that as well. So I know you spoke about this in our previous meeting. Can you just touch on that again about how the investment on the approved retirement fund works post-retirement?
Yeah, so look, we will have done that risk questionnaire, and depending on, the clients will come out between a level 1 and a level 7. We will reflect that within the approved retirement.
So 1 being very conservative, 7 being James Bond kind of thing. So, and look, often I suppose we will consider how much are you going to be taking out of the approved retirement fund each year. Typically we might leave that in cash. And then a portion of the approved retirement fund can be left in cash. So you can split the different types of investments in the ARF.
But what I would say is very important, Owen, is once the client has retired, sitting down and reviewing these investments and the approved retirement funds is very, very important. So reviewing the plans is important.
So that was our final retirement seminar. We hope you enjoyed that. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank our team of speakers who've given us some really valuable insights and information there. And just to remind you that our previous seminars are available on our YouTube channel, so if you would like to re-watch them or to pass them on to your friend or colleague that you feel might be relevant to. So we really appreciate the feedback that we've got so far, so keep that coming in. And don't forget, if you'd like to book in for the all-important financial consultation, you can contact myself directly at sarah.connolly@ipf.ie or by phone on 01 829 8500. And thanks a million again for watching.